Elizabeth Colleton.
And I'm Thayer Long.
And we're here at the Glen Carlin Demonstration Garden to talk to you about climate conscious gardening and sustainable gardening. And the topic that we're going to discuss right now is lowering carbon emissions.
You know, you might not think about carbon emissions when you're out in the garden because we're not rolling down the highway in our cars, we're not seeing smokestacks, but there's certainly small things that we can do and we practice as master gardeners to really limit our carbon footprint.
I think some of the examples we're going to show you might be a little bit surprising. I know that we were thrilled to learn about these ideas, so let's join us.
Really, one of the simplest ways that you can reduce carbon emissions is thinking about the tools that you're actually using while you're in the garden, right, Elizabeth?
Right.
So first of all, there's obviously lots of power tools out there. A lot of them are still gas powered,
Yep.
But we always have the opportunity to use either electric, which is a growing trend, electric leaf blowers, electric hedge trimmers, electric weed whackers,
Battery lawnmowers.
battery lawnmowers.
Yep.
That's always an alternative,
Yep.
and that's certainly better than the gas powered motors. But what do you have here at your to cut someone's lawn here?
Yeah, so this is a 16-inch reel mower, and basically the idea here is this is just all people powered. This is especially perfect for a small, postage stamp size lawn, frankly. It has zero emissions, minimal maintenance, and once you get the hang of it, it's certainly an easy alternative to a gas powered lawnmower. A step up from this, which I admit to have done recently, is to invest in that battery-powered lawnmower, and that's you're recharging a long life lithium battery. And the benefit, like you said, is that you're really pulling energy from hopefully a renewable energy grid, and you're reducing both the emissions from the machine itself, and you're cutting way down on frankly, gasoline that gets spilled every year on our lawns and contaminates groundwater. So that's a really easy way to pursue a low carbon approach to cutting your grass.
And you're getting a workout, which is an added benefit.
That's right.
And of course, just instead of spraying pesticides to pull weeds, just take a weeder, use any one of these tools while you're out in the garden. It's natural, it's people powered, as you said. You're using zero emissions, zero energy except your own, and it gets the job done.
Yep.
Rest assured, whether or not you're using push mower like this, or electric, or hand, it gets the job done.
That's right.
So Elizabeth, I think what we all need to be aware of is that the materials that we use in our garden come from somewhere and go somewhere. And there's a bigger carbon cycle here that lives outside of just our garden.
Yeah.
And so when we think about the materials that we use and we want to be climate conscious, I certainly am starting to look at things like containers and other things, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that you'll get at your average nursery if you buy something is a plastic black container. One of the things that we can do is we can really recycle and reuse these for a variety of things. I'll buy something like from a nursery and I'll save it, and it comes in handy if I'm starting a plant from seed, if I want to transplant something, if I want to give something to a friend, a neighbor, another master gardener. I'm able to recycle these because there's quite a carbon footprint to manufacture these.
That's right.
And also to recycle these. And in fact, a lot of the recycling does not really pick up black. It's all done through some type of color scanning. And so I think it's really important that we can have an impact by doing simple things like recycling these.
Right.
And I've also learned that a lot of nurseries now, especially ones that specialize in native plants, will actually take these back and they themselves will reuse them.
Yeah, and that's something that we can all do, and certainly in the springtime when we're setting up our gardens, we have multitudes of this type of thing. The other thing to think about is, in terms of lowering your carbon footprint, is actually taking steps to leave the carbon in the ground. That is the biggest task ahead of us. And I didn't know this until a couple of years ago, but a lot of our peat pots and even the peat moss that we might buy in bulk, we think that it's a good additive to the lawn or to our plants, or a great medium to start our seeds in. But actually what we're doing is we are destroying you know, peat bogs that take millions of years to generate, and by removing that peat from those bogs, you're releasing a huge amount of carbon. And this product is actually not, while it is biodegradable, it's not renewable in our lifetime. And so I've seen people accomplish the same goal, which is starting a little plant, you know, seedling, by rolling up newspaper or rolling up, you know, brown paper bags if you have some of those at home. Or like you said, if you have these plastic pots at home, and you can just simply reuse them and put them to work the following year. So there are alternatives if you're interested in using something like this, and that would be the coir, you know, sort of coconut matte type of medium that really helps you achieve the same goal. And that is a material that is in abundance in the environment and has you know, not as much of a carbon footprint as using peat.
Right.
Yeah, so that's a good place to start.
So another way to be carbon conscious, carbon friendly, climate conscious is to rethink or just be conscious about the materials that you're putting, you know, into your garden and on yourself as a gardener.
Right.
So, you know, this is representative of just an organic plant food. Look, certainly there's going to be some carbon, you know, footprint here when you're using any type of material, but
Right.
but certainly there are things that, like using organic, natural foods, where you can limit, you know, our footprint and just be more aware of
Right.
what we're putting into our gardens, which ultimately is going to get put back into the environment around us.
Right, and that, you know, taken up by the plants, taken up by the birds and the bees and the pollinators. You know, we're lucky to live in a time when there are a lot of alternatives to chemical pesticides on the market. This is just one example of how, you know, using essential oils can help, you know, keep mosquitoes and ticks away. And it's readily available, and it can really, you know, just kind of give you an easy off-the-shelf alternative to some of the typical DEET-based or chemical-based insecticides that we've used for a long time. So in addition to the green elements of your garden, of course, other aspects come into play. Walkways, places to sit, water fountains, all of these things increasingly use lighting in the garden. And there are ways that you can even achieve low carbon lighting options. And one of them is on display here, but you know, in the Glen Carlin Library gazebo, where you see solar lighting as an option. And I think
Absolutely. There's lots of devices, right? As you said, water fountains, running water features now, which require energy.
Yeah.
And they're a renewable source of energy called the sun, which we've gotten a lot better at capturing. And the equipment now, the solar panel lights, as you mentioned, what they're doing here in the Glen Carlin Library to demonstrate that practice is thinking about, you know,
Yeah.
thinking about how you're powering different devices in your garden, and solar certainly is a great way to go.
Yeah, it's affordable, and it's most oftentimes very easy to set up, and you know, we encourage it from a carbon climate conscious perspective.
We hope you've found some of these best practices about how to lower carbon emissions useful and helpful, and hopefully we've given you something to think about, that there is a greater supply chain of gardening materials and supplies that we can have an impact on. Even though you might be just out in your own garden, you can actually have an impact by choosing the right tools, by the right materials, and thinking about proper use of those said things.
That's right. And these types of examples and suggestions you can find on the mgnv.org website, including a really handy checklist of climate conscious gardening steps that you can take at home.